Thursday morning. Temperatures in most towns and cities may just be above freezing, but it's going to feel cold with that wind. And then generally it's a fine and sunny day to come tomorrow for most. We'll keep wintry showers going over northern Scotland, although the winds may ease a little through the day. A few showers grazing the east coast of England and 1 or 2 for West Wales and maybe southwest England also. But for the vast majority, it's a sunny but cold day. Temperatures struggling, 7, 8 at best. Add on that wind and it feels even colder. And we're not done with the winds because they're going to strengthen further. This low pressure heading south will bring colder air come the end of the week, and those isobars really squeezing together. Initially across Scotland on Friday, we have a Met Office warning in place for that. And then more widely on Saturday across the UK, some very strong gusty winds, the potential for some disruption, and there could be a bit of snow mixed in as well.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Join me, Alex Phillips, for the afternoon agenda on GB News, Monday to Thursday from 4 p.m. till 6 p.m. We don't lecture to you or try to tell you what to think. We do a deep delve into a topic with views from across the range of debate, therefore leaving you, the viewer, to make up your own mind. Join me, Alex Phillips, for the afternoon agenda on GB News, 4 till 6, Monday to Thursday. You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello, I'll get on to today's weather in just a moment, but just flagging that at the end of the week, some very windy weather is likely and things are going to be turning colder again as well, which brings the threat of a bit of snow also. But back to today, low pressure is swinging its way to the north of the UK, and this cold front is driving south, introducing colder air across Scotland and Northern Ireland. But it does mean here it'll be a bit brighter through the afternoon with some sunshine. Lots of showers, though, packing into the north and west. Mostly of rain at this stage, and we've got this line of rain on the weather fronts, clearing away from southern Scotland, but turning damp over northwest England, north and west Wales. Much of the south, dry and cloudy, 1 or 2 showers for Kent and the southwest. And temperatures here might creep up to double figures, but colder air is following on from this band of wet weather, this cold front. As it continues to track southwards through the evening, the rain could pep up for a time over South Wales and southwest England. Clearer skies following, and the showers turning more and more wintry over the hills of northern Scotland, even some snow to low levels for a time, and strong winds as well, and a much colder feel for Thursday morning. Temperatures in most towns and cities may just be above freezing, but it's going to feel cold with that wind. And then generally it's a fine and sunny day to come tomorrow for most. We'll keep wintry showers going over northern Scotland, although the winds may ease a little through the day. A few showers grazing the east coast of England and 1 or 2 for West Wales and maybe southwest England also. But for the vast majority, it's a sunny but cold day. Temperatures struggling, 7, 8 at best. Add on that wind and it feels even colder. And we're not done with the winds because they're going to strengthen further. This low pressure heading south will bring colder air come the end of the week, and those isobars really squeezing together. Initially across Scotland on Friday, we have a Met Office warning in place for that. And then more widely on Saturday across the UK, some very strong gusty winds, the potential for some disruption, and there could be a bit of snow mixed in as well.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
A very good afternoon and welcome to the briefing here on GB News. It is just gone 3 o'clock. We are live from my home county of Fermanagh, the most westerly county in the United Kingdom, from Enniskillen. And over the next hour, we'll be taking a special focus on Northern Ireland, its politics, that protocol, and also on the Irish border. We're only 15 miles away from the border that divides this island, but it is another border, one in the Irish Sea, that is the centre of political debate. We'll be joined by lots of guests, including the former First Minister of Northern Ireland, Arlene Foster, and Father Brian Darcy. Plus, we'll be in London looking back at Prime Minister's Question Time. All that and much more over the next hour here on GB News. But first, let's go to London for the very latest news with Paul Hawkins.
Thanks, Darren. Our top story at 3. 2 police officers who shared crime scene photos on social media describing the victims as dead birds have been sacked. PC Jamie Lewis and Dennis Jaffa admitted sharing images of Bieber Henry and Nicole Smallman, who were killed in northwest London in June last year. They were found guilty of gross misconduct at a tribunal, their actions described as shameful. Boris Johnson has defended his social care plans after Labour accused him of creating a working-class dementia tax. Earlier this week, the government voted through plans to change how contributions are calculated towards an £86,000 limit for social care. During PMQs, Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer said the measures would impact the poorest hardest and lead to people selling their homes to pay for care.
Working people are being asked to pay twice. During their working lives, they'll pay much more tax in national insurance, whilst those living off wealth are protected. And then when they retire, Mr. Speaker, they face having to sell their home when the wealthiest won't have to do so.
We're delivering for the working people of this country. We're delivering for the people of this country. And we're fixing the problems that they thought could never be fixed. We're doing the things that they thought were impossible.
The Common Speaker, meanwhile, has requested a review into whether MPs can take babies into the chamber. The move comes after Labour's Stella Creasy was told she can't take her 3-month-old son into the Commons. So Lindsay Hoyle stressed it's extremely important that parents can fully participate in parliamentary work. Stella Creasy said she welcomes the review and hopes the move makes parenting and politics possible to mix. The government is planning to pass a new law which will mean anyone who kills an emergency service worker while that worker is on duty will face a mandatory life sentence. Called Harper's Law, the government wants to change the legislation following a 2-year campaign by Lizzie Harper. She's the husband of PC Andrew Harper, who was killed while answering a late-night burglary call. 3 teenagers were cleared of murder but convicted of manslaughter. The World Health Organisation's warned that a further 700,000 people could die from COVID across Europe by March. That would take the total number of deaths in Europe to more than 2.2 million. It's also confirmed that COVID-related deaths have doubled to almost 4,200 a day since September. 2 men have been arrested after the body of a woman was found in the hunt for missing Plymouth teenager Bobby Ann McLeod. Devon and Cornwall police said that a body had been found during searches for the 18-year-old. Bobby Ann McLeod left her home in Liam around 6 p.m. on Saturday to meet friends in the city centre, but she never arrived. The police say the discovery of a body was weighing heavy on the people of Plymouth. One of the world's top footballers, France and Real Madrid forward Karim Benzema, has been convicted of trying to help blackmail a former international teammate. The 33-year-old has been given a 1-year suspended jail term and ordered to pay a fine equivalent to £63,000. Prosecutors argued that he encouraged Matteo Valbuena to pay a suspected group of blackmailers in order to keep a sex tape out of the public eye. Benzema wasn't in court but denies any wrongdoing and will appeal the verdict. The Home Office should be stripped of responsibility for the Windrush compensation scheme. That's according to a cross-party group of MPs. The Home Affairs Committee found what it says were a litany of flaws in the way the department operates. It's recommending the scheme is transferred to an independent organisation so claimants have more trust in the scheme. As of the end of September, only 20% of the estimated 15,000 eligible claimants had applied, with only 5% receiving any compensation. NASA has launched a spacecraft to try and crash into an asteroid in a bid to change its course.
3, 2, 1, and liftoff.
The target isn't a threat, but scientists hope if it's successful, they'll learn things which will help them stop hazardous asteroids in the future. The collision is looking to change the speed of the asteroid and therefore its trajectory. The spacecraft is due to meet the asteroid next September. You're up to date with the latest news. We'll have more for you in half an hour.
Hello and welcome to the briefing here on GB News. I'm Darren McCaffrey and over the next hour we'll bring you all the latest political news and analysis live from Enniskillen here in Northern Ireland. We said on GB News, didn't we, when we began, we wanted to get out of the Westminster bubble, to travel around the country and to talk to local politicians and people about politics. Well, that is one of the reasons we've come to Northern Ireland, but one of the reasons we're specifically here in Enniskillen is to focus on the Northern Ireland Protocol and borders. We're not very far actually from the Irish border, but it is another border in the Irish Sea that is being talked about as those negotiations between the British government and the EU Commission carry on about the Northern Ireland Protocol. Will a deal be done? Well, we'll be getting a sense of what local people and local politicians make of it here. But also we'll be in Westminster too, looking back at PMQs. Who came out on top, Boris Johnson or Keir Starmer? That and much more over the next hour. As always, please do get in touch. You can email me at gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet me at gbnews, particularly if you live in Northern Ireland. Very keen to hear your thoughts, and we'll read some of those out at the end of the programme. It's just gone 3. You're watching GB News. Thanks for your company on this Wednesday afternoon. Well, look at this. It doesn't often be this sunny, particularly in November in County Fermanagh, but it is certainly a stunning setting to talk about some very difficult and complex political issues here in Northern Ireland. And who else to talk to about some of those big issues is another Fermanagh person, Arlene Foster, the former, of course, First Minister of Northern Ireland and DUP leader. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Nice to be home, isn't it? Particularly here, I would have thought. Let's just start about the kind of, you're from this part of the world. As I say, it's the most westerly part of the UK. The border's a big thing here, isn't it? What's your sense of where the politics is? Because there was an awful lot of focus for a long time on the border on the island of Ireland, and many say not enough focus on where that border might go, where it has ended up in the Irish Sea.
Well, first of all, Darren, let me say how excited I am that GB News is here in County Fermanagh and we're able to show it off in such a positive light, because whatever the politics about anything, this is a wonderful place to come and visit and to live in, actually. So it's great that we're taking...
definitely back that one up.
It's great that we're taking the time to go around about the UK and to show off the different parts of it. So let me say that first of all. Secondly, of course, during the Brexit negotiations, the Belfast Agreement has been reinterpreted in a particular way, and we have heard heard more of that reinterpretation over this past few days. I know we're going to come on to talk about that, in particular about Louise Hay. But of course, there were ways to deal with those border issues. Alternative arrangements were proposed. We could have exempted small businesses. We could have had those transitional issues dealt with using new technology. All of those things were talked about. But you'll remember at the time they were dismissed as unicorn ideas. Actually, they're now being looked at again, because that is the way actually to deal with the international border that already exists here on the island of Ireland, and it could have been dealt with if there had been a will.
In saying that, now is not the time, is it, to trigger Article 16, in the sense that it's going to start off a whole other process. First of all, it leads to more talks, but it's going to start off a whole other process that could create even more instability, which is not what Northern Ireland needs right now.
No, nobody wants instability, but I think, of course, the government should have foreseen that the protocol would have led to these problems. I remember back in January of this year trying to work through the different issues as they came up, whether it was VAT on second-hand cars, whether it was tariffs on steel, and it became very obvious very quickly that there needed to be a fundamental readjustment in relation to the protocol. Now, I know the government doesn't really want to trigger Article 16. They've acknowledged that the conditions exist to trigger Article 16.
Why do you think they've not done it already?
Well, I think because they want a negotiated way out of this. And I think that the length of time they have spent on this, the amount of political capital they have spent on this, means that they do want to find a solution. But it is proving more and more difficult. And Darren, it cannot go on for much longer, because that in itself is causing instability here. So really, if Article 16 needs to be triggered because the European Union aren't prepared to move in relation to issues, then I'm afraid that's what's going to have to happen.
Do you trust Boris Johnson and Lord Frost?
Well, I certainly think that since Lord Frost came into the position that he's in now, that things have changed, that we have seen movement in terms of the European Union. But I think we have to stand firm, because, as he himself said this week, all we're asking for is that we can move goods around the internal market of the United Kingdom, our own country. We're not asking for anything different. And remember, the protocol was put in place to do two things. It was to protect the Belfast Agreement, and it was to try and protect the European Union single market. So we were actually trying to help the Europeans by protecting their single market. And in fact, it has certainly done the second of those, protecting the European single market, to the nth degree, totally disproportionately. But in terms of the Belfast Agreement, it has not protected the Belfast Agreement, because actually it hasn't listened to the voices of unionism right throughout this.
In saying that, unionism has been split over kind of recent years, and not least of all on this issue of Brexit. And I asked Robin Swan yesterday whether actually unionism made a mistake. Your party made a mistake by backing Brexit, in that it was inevitable to bring up these questions of borders and in some ways the constitutional question too, and that actually maybe the safer thing for unionism would have to stick with the status quo.
But actually, if you look at the reason why we supported leaving the European Union, it was about the inflexibility of the European Union, the sovereignty issues, the fact that we wanted the United Kingdom to be able to make their own laws. What has happened to us, actually, because of the protocol, is that we don't have any say over those rules that are made in the European Union. It's actually worse now than it had been. So we do need to sort out the problems with the protocol. And actually, it wasn't the DUP who were split on the Brexit negotiations. It was actually the Ulster Unionist Party, because some of them supported Brexit and some of them didn't.
Now, you brought up earlier, actually, Louise Hay. I interviewed her earlier on in the week. She, of course, is the Shadow Northern Ireland Secretary. And we spoke about the possibility of a border poll and where Labour would be if there was one, should a British government campaign to stay inside the Union. Let's have a watch. Referendum on Northern Ireland's future, the British government or British political parties shouldn't interfere in that, shouldn't be involved in it.
I would, yes, I would. I would say that you know, we're a unionist party in the Labour Party, but if there is a border poll, then we should remain neutral. I think that's an important principle. Look, I believe in the union. I believe we're stronger together. I believe in the principles and values that underpin our union. But it is a crucial element that has sustained peace. Is the principle of consent, and that underpins the Good Friday Agreement.
Day, you've listened to what she's had to say there. Not many people say this is down to interpretation of the Good Friday Agreement, and that Britain in many ways shouldn't get involved in this because it is up to the people of Northern Ireland to decide.
Well, it's a complete rewriting of the Belfast Agreement, actually, and I wish people would actually read the Belfast Agreement before they actually comment on it, because what the Belfast Agreement says is that the UK government needs to be impartial in terms of the governance of the people of Northern Ireland, and the UK government have always been that way. But when it comes to the constitutional question, it was never envisaged envisaged that the United Kingdom government would be neutral or indeed supportive of Irish unity. It was always believed that they would want to keep the integrity of the whole of the United Kingdom. So it's a complete misreading of the Belfast Agreement. But as I say, it's not the first time the Belfast Agreement has been misread. It was in Europe over the Brexit negotiations, and here we are again with people rewriting the Belfast Agreement.
OK, Arlene Foster, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and you're going off to present your programme, of course, on Friday from London. Thank you very much indeed. Well, that was Arlene Foster speaking there, and we're going to be speaking to lots of local politicians from across the divide as the programme carries on. But first, one of our colleagues, Paul Hawkins, has been out and about in Northern Ireland, getting a sense of some of the big issues at play here, and particularly when it comes to the border on the island of Ireland. Let's have a look at kind of part 3 of a much extended documentary that we're going to show in full. This is his take on what it's like to kind of come and discover the issues here in Northern Ireland.
Today is the Ulster Ladies Senior Gaelic Football Final. Armagh in orange are playing Donegal in yellow. 15 players aside, they use a football with their hands or feet to score points by either kicking it in the goal or over the posts.
What's fascinating about this game, Gaelic football, is I didn't realise just how the history of it comes from a Republican Catholic background. And actually, we're in Northern Ireland, but the flags over there, none of them would tell you that. There's the Irish national flag over there, and before the game, everyone faced it, and they sung the Irish national anthem.
Back at the time, whenever the GAA was first founded, they wanted, it was a recruitment for, I don't want to go too much into it, but it was recruitment for the Irish Republican Army more than, but that has changed. There used to be a rule where Protestant people couldn't play and members of the armed force couldn't play and members of the police couldn't play. That rule's gone now. I identify myself as Irish because I come from the island of Ireland. I have an Irish passport.
You don't count yourself as British?
No.
That's interesting.
No.
Yeah. Do you count yourself as Irish or Northern Irish or both? Irish. Do you like the idea of it, if it can happen in a peaceful way, of a reunited Ireland?
Yeah.
Some people are talking about a reunited Ireland. Is that a good thing?
Well, we need to have a border poll, have a referendum on it, and put it to the people. Let what the people are saying.
How soon would that happen?
Within the next 5 years, probably. Yeah.
You reckon?
Yeah, it should do. Yeah. But Brexit has brought them conversations further. Because before Brexit, that conversation, wasn't there. So. So it's happening.
Yeah.
So the conversation needs to happen.
And Donegal are losing at half time. Are they going to come back?
No, definitely not. Armagh people, so obviously we're here supporting Armagh, so Armagh's just going to kick on here now, scoring out 3-7 in the second half, just to keep us all happy.
Yeah, great.
There we go, that was Paul Hawkins reporting from the Irish border, and that, as I say, is a little teaser for a full half-an-hour documentary that you'll be able to see on GB News this Friday, and indeed on our YouTube channel as well. Really worth a watch, particularly if you want to get a kind of outside perspective on some of the really complex politics taking place here in and around Northern Ireland. OK, we're going to pause on GB News for the time being. We're going to take a quick commercial break. After that break, we're going to go to London and look at Prime Minister's Question Time this afternoon. Who came out on top? Boris Johnson, Keir Starmer, what were the big issues? We've got Chris Hope from the Daily Telegraph in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. Whilst many of us will have a fine day on Thursday, come the end of the week, just flagging some very windy weather on the way, which will have a bit of snow mostly across northern hills. Some snow across the hills of northern Scotland overnight, thanks to this area of low pressure. There's a weather front at the moment crossing the country. That will bring a colder day on Thursday, but also for many it will be a sunnier day as well. Still quite a bit of cloud around this evening over northern England and Wales, with a bit of patchy rain and turning damp across the far southwest of England too. The showers coming into northern Scotland, falling as hail and rain at low levels. Some snow on the hills, a bit of light snow possible on some of the higher routes across Scotland, and very windy tonight across northern Scotland also. Temperatures dropping down close to freezing, even in towns and cities, and certainly a pretty cold feel on Thursday morning, but generally a bright, fine, sunny start. There will still be wintry showers over northern Scotland and a few rain showers grazing the east coast of England, perhaps Pembrokeshire and Cornwall also. But for many, it's a fine and sunny day on Thursday, but it will be cold. Temperatures 6-7 degrees for most places, and add on that wind, it will feel colder still. But the strongest winds, the liveliest weather is yet to arrive. We'll start to see this rain pushing into Scotland, a bit of snow likely on the hills, and that then sinks its way slowly southwards on Thursday night and into Friday. That will continue to track southwards during Friday, so a spell of rain for most, but increasingly the winds starting to pick up and the showers turning more and more wintry across northern Scotland during Friday. It's this low that's bringing this lively weather, with the strongest winds across the north later on Friday, a Met Office yellow warning in place, and then a warning covering most of the UK for Saturday. So there will be some wet weather, there will be some snow, but at the moment the cause for concern is with the wind. Met Office warnings in place, potential for damaging gusts of wind on Friday and Saturday.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hi, I'm Alistair Stewart, and I really hope that you can join me here on GB News. I've been in this game for 40 years and I've made lots of friends. I try and reflect what they think about the big stories of the day in conversation with me. That's why we call it Alistair Stewart and Friends, and you're a key part of it as well. I always get inundated with emails and messages and texts, and if they're really good, I play them back to you. 12 till 3 every Saturday and Sunday.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Join us for Political Correction. We're here every Sunday to correct politics and put you, the people, back in charge.
We talk about all areas of the United Kingdom, including Northern Ireland.
Our debate goes way beyond the Westminster Village. It's about the real country. It's about your opinion. So please, we want you to tell us what you think.
This is Political Correction.
Every Sunday morning from 10 a.m. here on GB News.
You're watching GB News live across the UK, the world, and our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We're here for you. Don't forget to join our community by hitting the subscribe button.
And download the GB News app so you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you. Email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
Very good afternoon. Welcome back to the briefing here on GB News, live from Enniskillen in Northern Ireland. Myself and Liam Hannigan been travelling across Northern Ireland this week. We were in Belfast yesterday. We'll be in Coleraine tomorrow. As I say, on GB News, we want to get outside of the Westminster bubble and talk about politics and people throughout the United Kingdom. But sometimes you also can't get away from Westminster politics. It was, of course, Prime Minister's Question Time today, with Keir Starmer laying into the Prime Minister on everything from social care to rail investment and tax. Let's have a look back at the battle between Boris and Keir Starmer a little bit earlier in the comments.
At the last election, the Prime Minister promised that nobody would have to sell their home to pay for care. That's another broken promise, isn't it?
Prime Minister. No, Mr. Speaker. No, Mr. Speaker. Because if he looked at what we are proposing, and if he supported what we are proposing, which is fixing something that Labour never fixed in all their years in office, Mr. Speaker, we are saying to the people of this country that we will disregard your home as part of your assets if you and your spouse are living in it. And number two, Mr. Speaker, you can have a deferred payments agreement if you move out of it and you're living in residential care. You can have a deferred payments agreement. But most important of all, Mr. Speaker, by putting the huge investment that we are making now in health and social care, we are allowing for the first time the people of this country to insure themselves against the potentially catastrophic, the otherwise catastrophic costs of dementia or Alzheimer's.
It's another broken promise. Just like he promised that he wouldn't put up tax. Just like he promised 40 new hospitals. Just like he promised a rail revolution in the north. Mr. Speaker, who knows if he'll make it to the next election? But if he does, how does he expect anyone to take him and his promises seriously?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, yet again he raises the rail revolution in the north. And the 3 new high-speed lines, Mr. Speaker, 96 billion pounds. Nothing like it. Again, nothing like it, Mr. Speaker. Nothing like it for a century. And just for the advantage of what I didn't even know this. I was in a state of complete innocence about this last week, Mr. Speaker. But it turns out that the right honourable gentleman actually campaigned against HS2 altogether.
It's a classic con game. A Covent Garden pickpocketing operation. The Prime Minister's the front man, distracting people with wild promises and panto speeches, whilst his Chancellor dips his hand in their pocket.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I tell you what's not working. It's that line of attack. Because I just want to repeat. I want to repeat the crucial point, Mr. Speaker. We're delivering for the working people of this country. We're delivering for the people of this country, and we're fixing the problems that they thought could never be fixed. We're doing the things that they thought were impossible.
To all of that in Parliament from Chris Hope from the Daily Telegraph, who joins us now from London. Good afternoon to you, Chris. Fair to say it's not been the easiest of weeks, or indeed week, it must be said, for Boris Johnson. How do you feel he did today?
Well, you saw him jumping there as he had a chance to hit back at quite heavy shelling there from Keir Starmer. Essentially, Keir Starmer gave him quite a hard time and landed some very good points, I thought, about calling a Covent Garden pickpocket. He described how this working-class dementia tax, this reform to social care, how it affects people with properties that are worth less than those well-off people in the south. I think he did really well, actually, Keir Starmer. I think that the one area where Boris Johnson had a chance to get back in there was over HS2, claiming that Keir Starmer once opposed it. You saw him almost leap for joy at a chance to get back in, because he was basically playing rope-a-dope for a long period there. It's being pummeled by Keir Starmer, who clearly had his Weetabix this morning.
Indeed, and it has to be said, I think everyone would recognise Keir Starmer's getting better at the game of Prime Minister's Question Time to a degree, isn't he? What's the mood amongst Conservative backbenchers? You're very plugged into them, Christopher. I was at Prime Minister's Question Time last week when, frankly, lots of them didn't show up. What was it like there today?
Well, there were more of them today. They did show up, which is a start. There's talk about letters going in, unbelievably, like deja vu all over again after Theresa May. Letters going into Graham Brady about no confidence letters. The magic number is 54. If he gets 54, then there could be a leadership challenge. But almost certainly that's not going to happen. And I'm not even sure the letters are going in. Whips are saying it to be alarmist, maybe. But I think this is a politician who won the last election by a landslide just 2 years ago. There's no way he's going to be chucked out before the next election. But they're concerned because he's a guy, a prime minister who's quite lonely. He hasn't got friends. He's losing authority. The CBI speech. That was a problem. He bumbled through it. Normally it's a big one of the year. He really failed to deliver it properly at all. And there's a concern about, is he overwhelmed? One minister's told me he's drowning in number 10. He needs organising. The view amongst MPs I speak to say he needs a kind of Willie Whitelaw figure. Boris needs a Willie, if you like, to try and organise life like Willie Whitelaw did for Margaret Thatcher back in the 80s.
You can say that, Chris, and not me. Just very funny, very quickly, people would though point out this is one of the reasons people like Boris Johnson, and at the end of the day, kind of part of the confusion and all that sort of stuff is what makes him a good Prime Minister in some people's eyes. It's why he's popular.
I totally agree. I think that he is popular. He does pass the go for a pint test with lots of voters. He also, you could argue, has had he had some difficulties at the beginning of the pandemic, not locking down soon enough care home protection. But since then, he's done well with the vaccines, and also he did very well, I think, by opening up the country in July when he was told not to by lots of commentators and experts. And now it seems that we do have a degree of herd immunity in this country, and we're not seeing mass hospitalizations, and that is a good thing. I think you definitely think that he's had a good second half of the pandemic. So the idea of Boris being a chaotic leader, people are willing to allow that as long as he's doing well at actually running the country. And it hasn't been so bad. Things are not being stopped going through Parliament. He's weakening areas like on sewage. But arguably, these rebellions that happen in the House of Commons, they only happen because they got the luxury of a massive majority. So they will happen, and they allow a local MP to let off steam and to show the local people they are fighting for their rights. So I think it's slightly overdone, the issue of his future. I think he'll be here for a long time yet.
Okay. Well, we'll see how that works out, but I suspect you're right. Thank you very much indeed, Chris. As always, Chris Hope there from the Daily Telegraph, joining us from London. Well, let's take you back to Enniskillen, get a proper sense of the mood here, not just among politicians, but also people too. Delighted to say, braving the cold, because it has got pretty nippy here as the sun sets in County Fermanagh. It is Mark Conway, the editor of The Impartial Reporter, and Ray Saddison from the Fermanagh Herald, the two biggest newspapers in this county. Mark, let's focus a little bit on kind of the sense of the public mood here. We're very close to the border. The Irish border has been talked about so much over the last kind of 5 years or so. What do people feel about it? The kind of sense of maybe instability?
Yeah, I think that's a big worry, Darren, for everybody. You know, we had a protest last weekend, pro-protocol on the Fermanagh-Cavan border, which is only 10 miles away from here. And this weekend, the Orange Order is opening up Orange Halls for an anti-protocol declaration. So it's definitely back up in front in the news, the local news agenda. And Fermanagh seems to be at the centre of all that. And I was chatting to a business leader yesterday, and they have started working with the protocol, and they export goods to the Republic and over to the UK. And whilst there's more paperwork, you know, they're happy, they're able to do it, and very little delays. And while there is more paperwork and needed more manpower, it's working. And what they're worried about, if Article 16 is triggered, or if there's no agreement or a trade war between the UK and the EU, that they're back to square one and they don't know where they're going.
In saying that, Ray, many unionists feel that actually during the kind of talks that we saw in the last couple of years, that there was an awful lot of focus on kind of this border and not enough focus on the Irish border or the border in the Irish Sea, and that the unionist voice wasn't really listened to. Do you think that's true of here in Fermanagh?
I can understand that a little bit, yes, but the government, the UK and the EU have been talking about this for quite a number of years, and now the protocol has come up again. And don't forget, Northern Ireland, they voted against leaving the EU. So a lot of people here are quite content the way things are. The businesses seem to be getting through the initial problems. There are voices to be heard against protocol, and they seem to be the loudest voices, but there is a majority, we think, that is happy with the way things are at present.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much indeed, gentlemen, and I know you're going to be back to you in a couple of minutes' time towards the end of the programme to get your final thoughts here from Fermanagh. And we are also going to be hearing from Father Brian Dorsey, also another famous local face here in Enniskillen, a priest who's well known across the island of Ireland for his thoughts on what the public mood is here as well. So stay tuned to GB News live from Enniskillen. But first, let's go back over to London for the latest news headlines.
I'm Paul Hawkins. Your top stories at just gone 3:30. Two police officers who shared crime scene photos describing the victims as dead birds have been sacked. Viva Henry and Nicole Smallman were killed in northwest London in June last year. PC Jamie Lewis and Dennis Jaffa, who strayed from the cordon to take the photos, admitted posting them on WhatsApp. A tribunal found them guilty of gross misconduct, describing their actions as shameful. Boris Johnson has defended his social care plan after Labour accused him of creating a working-class dementia tax. Earlier this week, the government voted through plans to change how contributions are calculated towards an £86,000 limit for social care. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer says the measures will impact the poorest people the hardest. The Commons Speaker has requested a review into whether MPs can take babies into the chamber. The move comes after Labour's Stella Creasy was told she can't take her 3-month-old son into the Commons. And an extremely rare Christmas tree has been picked for Parliament. The outsized Sitka spruce, which reaches 42 feet high, was selected from England's biggest forest, Kielder. It's one of the few places in the UK that can supply such tall trees. And even so, the chance of finding a tree that Parliament is using is 1 in 150 million. You're up to date with the latest news. Back to Darren in Enniskillen.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Very good afternoon. Welcome back to the briefing here on GB News with me, Darren McCaffrey. We're live in Enniskillen in Northern Ireland, where we're talking about the politics and the people here in the province. Also talking, of course, about the Northern Ireland Protocol, which has been debated and discussed between the British government and the EU Commission this week. Could there be possibly a negotiated deal, or could the British government, as they've been threatening for the last couple of weeks, trigger Article 16, which in theory at some stage could start a trade war between the European Union and Britain? And this is all, of course, over where the border should be, and also what the check should be on that border that is currently in the Irish Sea on goods travelling between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Though much of the talk, of course, over the last 5 years or so during those Brexit negotiations have actually been about a border that's only 15 miles from here, the border that divides Northern Ireland and Ireland. And on that border is Dougie Beattie, our GB News Northern Ireland reporter, who joins us now live from Belcoo, just down the roads from here in Enniskillen. Dougie, as I say, we've been talking in the last year or so, haven't we, about the border in the Irish Sea, the invisible border, but the other big contentious border, of course, for the last century or so is the one that you're standing on.
It is, and I mean, if you look at it, I'm standing in Europe, and just behind me at those signs is the UK. What's different about it? Well, quite a bit actually. Where I'm standing now, you can use euros. Back there it's sterling. It's a different health service. It's a different school education service, different police, different army, and of course it has different policies because it's a different government. But is there that much difference really? I mean, I remember coming through here back in the 70s and 80s, and at that side of the bridge you had a Garda Síochána checkpoint with Irish Army on it, and this side you had the same but with the British Army and the then RUC. They were only there because of the terrorism that took place, not because of customs. Customs posts were always here and used to pull in and they give you a triangle and on you went. It wasn't that much different, it wasn't that hard. And nowadays, with the amount of electronics that are here, this border should be very, very open. The problem being is that everybody got themselves in a state over Brexit, and they have talked themselves into a corner. That's all very well for politics nationally, but for the communities that live here, when we take the human aspect of it, there is nothing different, because these communities have married through one another. They live on either side. They go to some of the same schools. And really and truly, it is the biggest shame for them that they are caught on a frontier.
Dougie, yeah, it is a really interesting and place with a lot of history, isn't it? Thank you very much indeed, Dougie Beattie, there joining us from Belcoo, which I say is only a couple of miles down the road from us here in Enniskillen, where the sun is setting on a very nice, if cold, November evening. Delighted to say, though, talk a little bit more about this. We've got Paul Blake, who is a local SDLP councillor, a Nationalist Party here in Northern Ireland, and John Sheridan, who's a member of the Borders Community Against Borders, I think is the title of the group. Let's start with you.
Against Brexit.
Against Brexit. Let's start with you, Paul, first of all, which is on this issue of the protocol and the border in the Irish Sea. UNIS have got a point, haven't they, that it's not working perfectly. It does need to change, doesn't it?
Well, the protocol isn't working. But at the same time, what is the alternative? It's like very much the rhetoric around Brexit at the very start. What was the alternative? What was the solution? Was there ever such thing as a good Brexit? There was never such a thing. And when it comes to the protocol, it's about trying to find, and that's what we are trying to do as a party, is trying to find solutions to a very difficult situation. No, it's not working. It's not working for the people of Northern Ireland, but it's about trying to find solutions around it and away from the kind of brinkmanship that we're kind of seeing in many places now. It's trying to avoid that and trying to look for something that can make this a more stable and prosperous place.
John, do you agree with that? Because, as I say, there was a frustrated aspect of unionism who feel that kind of part of their identity has been stripped away by this kind of border in the Irish Sea.
There always was a border there. If you needed to get livestock across or whatever checks needed.
It wasn't quite as vociferous as it is now.
Not as vociferous as it was now, but no, I wouldn't agree fully with that. We feel, and every business we speak to, that the protocol has the support of the business community. And I'll give you an instance of that, Darren. The Almac Group was just after announcing 1,000 jobs in Craigavon. and have identified the protocol as that reason, because they're delighted that they're staying in the EU zone and can trade both to GB unfettered and to the European market. Coca-Cola's packaging partner, Arda, are after announcing 150 million and 200 million investment in Belfast, where the CO2 will be supplied to GB from the north.
So I mean, there's clearly businesses that are in favour of this, but
Absolutely.
Away from the kind of the business element of it, there's politics obviously at place here as well. There always is in Northern Ireland, and frankly, this is a kind of unionist community here who feel that actually, this is a proper divide between the rest of Great Britain, a country they want to stay in, the United Kingdom.
No, I think we have to have sympathy for them for the position that they've been put into in many ways, because in many ways their identity has been stripped away. And as a nationalist politician, I can understand that and have sympathy for them in many ways. But I also it's like anything to do with Brexit and to do with the protocol. It's trying to find something that's stable, that can look for solutions in it all. And what we have to have as unionism is an understanding of the position that they're in, but also an understanding of how we can overcome it too.
And John, what is the solution then in all of this? I mean, there has to be a solution.
Well, it's not an identity thing. It was always about trade. It was always about trade, and obviously the EU have to protect their market and have to protect the million citizens.
Well, the weird thing is,
everyone
says that it's obvious the EU needs to protect their market. Is it obvious? I mean, the solution that some would put forward is that you just ensure the goods that go into Northern Ireland don't go down south. I mean, that's an obvious solution. That's you protect the single market that way.
Of course you do, but that solution is, all my lifetime you could never ascertain what was coming in, because it came in containers from British ports, and when it landed in the ports of Belfast and Larne, you hadn't a clue what was on that container. For years the UFU tried to find out exactly what meat or product was coming in from elsewhere, and they couldn't. Now we can with the protocol, and you've got to understand that local supermarkets, Lidl, M&S and others are buying locally now, buying off local farmers, supporting local jobs, and ensuring that the best food in the world is bought for their customers.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Paul Blake and John Sheridan there joining us, who of course want to see the Northern Ireland Protocol remain in place. I'm sure there are many of you at home who don't think like that. As always, we want to hear from both sides. Do get in touch, gbviews@gbnews.uk, or tweet me at gbnews. We'll get some of those views across towards the end of the programme. But a little earlier, I had a chance to speak to Father Brian Darcy. He is a very well-known priest on both sides of the border here in Ireland, about his sense of where the politics mixes with the people, about where the sentiment is actually amongst the communities that he deals with. And I began by talking to him about where we are in terms of our politics in Northern Ireland at the moment. We're in a very rural part of the world, even a rural part of Ireland here, Northern Ireland. Just kind of talk about what the community's like here to a large degree.
Fermanagh is in a peculiar, as communities go, Fermanagh is in a peculiar sort of way. It's very evenly divided between what one was saying, unionists and nationalists, or if you want to put it, Protestants or Catholics, which I don't particularly like. But it's kind of evenly divided. It has its own tensions. Border regions has been very tense, its own share of trouble. Many in Fermanagh would look towards Dublin rather than Belfast or London, certainly not London, but Belfast. But the country's changing, very, very much so. And people are beginning to see that, you can't be as insular as we used to be. And so you're talking about Fermanagh. We in Fermanagh would want to be developing airports, tourism. We can't exist without it anymore. We have the most beautiful asset in probably the British Isles in Lough Erne. And I can go out in a boat in Lough Erne and not see another boat for a day. That's not the way it should be in this area. It's lovely for me, but I know that there's a better way of using that. So people are beginning to change slowly. But I've noticed it now in my lifetime. It's very, very different. And it's easier to get communities to come together. It's easier, by and large, to get people to see that, look, we're living on a small island, and what unites us is far greater than anything that can divide us. And there's a way of doing everything. Where do we want to be United Kingdom or United Ireland? Neither are any good unless you have a united people.
But there's a big problem, Bill. You've got a border here, not very far from where we're standing, that's been at the centre of politics for decades, but even more so in recent years.
You see, the whole point about it is that borders are alien now. They're part of life, you know. But borders between people is just, it's anathema in the worldwide communications world that we're in. You know, you can get onto Skype and you can talk to anybody in the world. What's the border there for? Why are you putting borders in it? There are borders around countries, etc., but borders within countries, it's just not. It's alien to modern thought. As a youngster, I grew up 6 miles from the border. We used it to our advantage. I went up on a Saturday and smuggled all that I could down on my bicycle and came back, you know, and people around the area did it as well. So people began to use it. But I also was there when roads were blown up, when people were shot, when it has caused enormous tension. And at the end of the day, you're saying, why? We're neighbours, we're friends. What are we fighting about? And it wasn't easy to say that when I was growing up. It was a very, very distinct set of communities in opposition to each other. Now I don't see that. There's a whole more younger people are coming together. There's a lot more intermarriage, even at either on the way from school or going at together. They go to university, they're together. So the thing about it is that highlighting borders is alien and damaging to people.
But borders do still matter, as you know, the referendum proved, and this big debate about whether it should be here on this land border or now in the Irish Sea. And there's obviously a lot of unionists who aren't very happy about that. They feel it undermines their sense of Britishness.
Perhaps I do understand that, because I certainly wouldn't want a border on the land. And I've had discussions when Brexit was being voted on, and it was obvious that this was going to be the big problem. Never seemed to have any influence at all on the British debate on the referendum, the English particularly debate on the referendum. But it was obvious here that this was going to be a huge sticking point, because the EU are here and we're here. And most people in Northern Ireland, by vote, were happy that the EU was here. And then somebody was coming and saying, well, we want to get out of the EU. So, but it's only natural that says you're going to put a border between the EU and those who are out of it. It has to be. It has to be that way. And it was never thought about. And we worked so hard, and all of us have lived through murders. Where I'm standing now, you know, there have been 3 people shot going to church. One of them dead, going to church. And we work so hard to bring peace, and we work so hard, the Good Friday Agreement, the Belfast Agreement, call it what you will, and all of a sudden, that's such a precious thing. We shouldn't willy-nilly, for votes in the south of England or the north of England, destroy that. Why should it?
Do you, and just finally on this, I mean, you know, you lived through the whole of the Troubles. Yes. You've seen the worst of it. I mean, do you think we could genuinely go back to that? Is that a possibility, or do people talk that up too much?
Well, yes. The answer to that is, to both questions, is yes. It is a possibility, but people talk about it too much. The biggest difficulty that I find is there's a generation of people who don't remember what it was like, and that's always a danger. And that's a group of people who can be worked up to do stupid things and live to regret it. I think we need to be very careful of it. Using it as a threat is wrong. That's wrong. And I notice both sets of politicians are doing it as a threat. And that's wrong. It shouldn't be a threat. It should be, listen, here, how do we protect the peace that we have? We have a duty. It was hard earned. We have a duty to do it. Don't be talking about breaking it. Talking about maintaining it, strengthening it, growing it, developing it. And that's why I say, whether we have a United Kingdom or United Ireland is immaterial to me. What I'm interested in is a united people with a future.
That was Father Brian Darcy from the Grand Monastery here in Enniskillen speaking to me a little bit earlier on today. The sun is setting here in Enniskillen. Very, very nice backdrop behind me, the most westerly part of the United Kingdom, a county that is got massive lakes in it as well and stunning scenery. Let's get the views as we wrap up the programme. Rather cold November evening with Mark Conway. He's the editor of the Impartial Reporter, and Ray Sanderson from the Fermanagh Herald, editor of that paper too, two of the biggest newspapers here in Fermanagh. Mark, you know, we listen to what politicians have to say in Dublin, in Brussels, in London. There is a sense at the end, isn't there, and I think it's more acute here than almost everywhere else, that people don't really care about Northern Ireland that much, and they don't really understand it very much either.
Yeah, there's certainly that feeling, and I suppose that has only been exacerbated by Boris Johnson. There would be on both sides. I suppose that's one thing we're probably both sides agree on, is that, you know, they don't have any real trust or respect for Boris Johnson, the way the Brexit has gone and the way he behaves. So yeah, there would be a mistrust there. They feel they're on their own and they're isolated out here, and you know, it's really difficult when you look at the economics, what's coming down the road of increased prices, of, you know, potential mortgage interest rate rises and all that sort of thing. It's really tough at the minute, and you throw COVID in on top of it, and yeah, certainly Northern Ireland feels isolated, and within that Fermanagh would be the same.
And is there a sense that local politics, Ray, is working? Stormont politics?
That is very debatable at the moment. Yesterday we had the announcement on COVID again. No clear path. I'm not quite sure if it is, but I know that people in this area are getting very tired of Brexit and COVID combination, and it's wearing everybody down. They need people to be supporting them. They need to be able to look to the future in comfort and in good health, and that doesn't seem to be happening at the moment. As Mark said, we are the most westerly part of the UK, but we're also the forgotten area of the UK.
Well, it's one of the reasons we're here, of course, covering what is happening. Thank you very much indeed for your time, Mark Conway. Ray Sanderson there, wrapping up this programme live from Enniskillen. And as I say, there's an attempt for GB News to get around the country. Our special coverage of Northern Ireland continues tomorrow. We're going to travel up to Coleraine, near the north coast, where we'll be looking particularly at unionism and its future within the UK and across Ireland as well. Arlene Foster, who is also from Fermanagh, is back in London with her programme on Friday. But that is it from me for today. I'll see you tomorrow at 3. Liam, of course, is on at 1 from Coleraine as well. Up next, it is Alex Phillips with the Afternoon Agenda. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow, same time, 3 o'clock.
Join me, Alex Phillips, for the Afternoon Agenda on GB News, Monday to Thursday from 4 p.m. till 6 p.m. We don't lecture to you or try to tell you what to think. We do a deep delve into a topic with views from across the range of debate, therefore leaving you, the viewer, to make up your own mind. Join me, Alex Phillips, for the Afternoon Agenda on GB News, 4 till 6, Monday to Thursday. You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also